A man left his wife because he believed she was infertile. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to undergo tests. The results were shocking and brought her to tears. Years later, they reunited with Triplets. Before hearing this emotional story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Emily adjusted the basal thermometer on her nightstand and sighed deeply, watching the first rays of sunlight filter through the bedroom curtains. It was the 12th consecutive month of meticulously following all medical recommendations, tracking her fertile window, and clinging to hopes that seemed increasingly distant. Beside her, Daniel still slept, oblivious to the worries that consumed his wife every morning. At 35, Emily was a law professor at one of Chicago's most prestigious universities. Her professional life couldn't have been better. She had just been promoted to head of the civil law department. Yet, her dream of becoming a mother, which she had nurtured since her teenage years, seemed to slip further away, casting a shadow over her 8-year marriage. "You're obsessing over this," Daniel would always say, his voice tinged with irritation and condescension. "Things happen naturally when they're meant to." But Emily knew that after so much time trying, something needed to be investigated. That morning, as she prepared coffee, Emily mustered the courage for another attempt at conversation. Daniel walked into the kitchen, adjusting his tie, his impeccable suit reflecting his position as an executive at a major bank. "Daniel, I've scheduled an appointment with Dr. Victoria for next week," she mentioned, trying to keep her tone casual as she poured the coffee. "She's a highly recommended fertility specialist." Her husband froze, the cup halfway to his mouth. "Cancel it," he said curtly. "We've already talked about this. But honey, it's been over a year of trying. It's normal to seek medical help in this situation," Emily argued, feeling her heart race. "Dr. Victoria can help us understand what's going on." "There's nothing to understand," Daniel snapped, setting the cup down harder than necessary. "You're creating a problem where there isn't one. My mom took 5 years to get pregnant. With me. It's a matter of time." Emily took a deep breath, holding back the tears threatening to fall. "Daniel, it's not just about time. There are simple tests we can do, just to rule out any—" "Tests?" he interrupted, his voice rising an octave. "You want me to get tested, is that it? Are you suggesting the problem is with me?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Emily tried to calm him, realizing the situation was spiraling out of control. "I just think we should investigate together. It could be a number of factors." "Listen carefully, Emily." Daniel stood up, his eyes flashing with anger. "There's nothing wrong with me. If you're so obsessed with this, go ahead and get your tests. But don't ask me to be part of this madness." The silence that followed was deafening. Emily watched as her husband grabbed his briefcase and left without a word, slamming the door behind him. Alone in the kitchen, she finally let the tears fall. That afternoon, during a break between her classes, Emily found herself researching fertility clinics on her laptop. The morning conversation still echoed in her mind, along with all the other similar discussions from the past few months. Something had changed in their marriage. It wasn't just the issue of pregnancy, but the way Daniel reacted to any mention of the subject, as if she were committing a personal offense by suggesting they needed help. Her friend and department colleague, Sophia, walked into the teacher's lounge and immediately noticed her mood. "Another fight?" she asked gently, sitting down beside her. Emily simply nodded, unable to hold back a sob. Sophia placed a hand on her shoulder in a comforting gesture. I'm sorry to be blunt, but this isn't healthy. Daniel has always been a bit difficult, but his resistance to even consider getting tests done, it's not normal." "I know," Emily whispered, wiping her eyes. "Sometimes I wonder if he's so afraid of finding something out, or if he just doesn't want to have kids with me and doesn't have the courage to say it. Have you thought about getting the tests done on your own, at least to start understanding what's going on?" Sophia's suggestion lingered in Emily's mind for the rest of the day. During her last class, while explaining the principles of family law to her students, her thoughts drifted to the possibilities. Maybe it was time to take control of the situation, even if it meant taking the first steps alone. When she got home that night, She found Daniel sitting on the living room couch, his expression closed off, and a manila envelope in his hands. Before she could say anything, he spoke. "We need to talk." The tone of his voice made Emily freeze in place. She knew that tone. It was the same one he used when he had to fire someone at the bank. Mechanically, she sat down in the chair across from him, her heart pounding in her chest. "This isn't working anymore," Daniel began without preamble. "This marriage, we lost ourselves somewhere along the way. You with this obsession about having kids, turning our lives into hell." Emily felt as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. "Daniel, please, let me finish." He raised his hand, stopping her from continuing. "I've thought a lot about this. I talked to my lawyer today. I think it's best if we separate now, before the resentment makes everything even worse." The manila envelope slid across the coffee table and stopped in front of her. Emily stared at it as if it were a snake about to strike. "These are the divorce papers," Daniel explained, his voice now softer, almost gentle. "I'm leaving the apartment to you. It's the least I can do, considering everything." Emily picked up the envelope with trembling hands but didn't open it. Her mind was in turmoil, trying to process how their marriage had reached this point, how the dream of starting a family had become the catalyst for their separation. "Did you never want to have kids with me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Daniel looked away, fixing his gaze on the window, where the city lights were beginning to shine in the falling night. "It's not that. I just don't want our lives to be defined by this. I don't want more tests, doctors, or pressure. I want peace." At that moment, looking at the man with whom she had shared the last 8 years of her life, Emily realized she was facing a stranger. The Daniel she had known, the one she had planned a future with, had disappeared at some point without her. Noticing, "I'll stay at the bank's flat for a few days," he announced, standing up. "My lawyer will contact you to settle the details." Emily remained seated, the envelope weighing heavily in her hands like lead, as she watched Daniel climb the stairs to grab some clothes. When the front door closed, marking his departure, she finally allowed reality to hit her with full force. Her marriage was over. But amidst the searing pain she felt, a small voice in her mind whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, this was the moment to discover her own truths, free from the chains of fear and Daniel's denial. A week after Daniel left, Emily found herself sitting in the waiting room of Dr. Victoria's clinic. The cozy environment, with its soft-toned walls and relaxing ambient music, contrasted sharply with the whirlwind of emotions she was experiencing. She had made the decision to undergo the tests alone, no longer to save her marriage, but to find the answers she had been searching for so long. "Emily Almeida?" called the receptionist. "The doctor is ready to see you." Dr. Victoria was a middle-aged woman with a gentle smile and keen eyes. Her office, decorated with photos of smiling families, radiated hope. "So, Emily, tell me what brings you here," the doctor began after the initial introductions. Emily took a deep breath before starting her story. She spoke about the failed attempts to conceive, Daniel's resistance to getting tested, and finally, the impending divorce. Her voice trembled at times, but she remained steady. "I know it might seem strange to continue with this investigation now, but I need to know. I spent years blaming myself, wondering if there was something wrong with me." "There's nothing strange about that," Dr. Victoria gently interrupted. "Understanding our bodies and our reproductive health is a fundamental right. Let's start with some basic tests and develop a plan based on the results." In the following weeks, Emily immersed herself in a routine of tests and appointments. Between her university classes and meetings with her lawyer to finalize the divorce, she found time for every necessary procedure. Sophia, her friend and confidant, became her main support during this period. "I seem different," Sophia commented during lunch. "Lighter despite everything." Emily reflected on her friend's observation. It was true. Even amidst the dissolution of her marriage, there was a sense of liberation in finally taking control of her life. The apartment, which Daniel had left to her in the divorce settlement, began to feel too big. Memories of the marriage echoed in every room, and Emily found herself thinking about making changes. "I'm thinking of selling," she confided to Sophia. starting fresh in a smaller, cozier place. I think that's a great idea, Sophia supported. Sometimes we need a space that's truly our own to rebuild our lives. The decisive moment came on a Thursday afternoon when Emily returned to the clinic to receive her test results. Dr. Victoria greeted her with a reassuring smile. "Emily, I've thoroughly analyzed all your tests," the doctor began, opening a folder filled with papers. "And I have good news for you. There's absolutely nothing preventing you from having children. Your fertility is perfectly normal for your age." The words hit Emily like a wave. Years of doubt and self-criticism crumbled before that simple statement. Silent tears began to stream down her face. "All this time," she whispered, more to herself than to the doctor, "he made me believe I was being obsessive, that the problem was psychological." "It's more common than you think," Dr. Victoria commented gently. "Many couples face difficulties because one partner refuses to investigate. Fear and pride can create enormous barriers." Leaving the clinic, Emily felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. On her way home, she stopped at a coffee shop she used to frequent with her students. As she sipped her cappuccino, she began making plans on her tablet. First, she listed recommended real estate agents. It was time to sell the apartment and find her own space. Then she opened her latte's resume and started updating it. If there was one thing the past few months had taught her, it was that she needed to reconnect with her passion for teaching. Her phone buzzed with a message from her lawyer. The divorce papers were ready for signing. Emily marked the date in her calendar with a surprising sense of calm. It wasn't the ending she had imagined for her story, but perhaps it was exactly the fresh start she needed. At the university, her classes took on a new energy. The students noticed the change. Commenting on how she seemed more lively, more present, Emily found herself naturally weaving her personal experiences into her family law lessons, turning theory into real-life lessons. "Professor," a student approached her after class, "your explanation about autonomy and individual rights within marriage was eye-opening. It made me rethink a lot of things." That comment stayed with Emily for the rest of the day. She realized her personal journey wasn't just about motherhood or a failed marriage. It was about self-discovery, autonomy, and the right to pursue her own happiness. That evening, sitting on her balcony with a glass of wine, Emily opened her notebook and began researching conferences and seminars in the field of family law. It was time to expand her professional horizons, to allow herself to dream again, but this time on her own terms. One conference in particular caught her attention: Reproductive Rights and Family Autonomy in the 21st Century, which would take place in Miami the following month. Without hesitation, she registered. Something told her this would be an important step in her new journey. Sometimes, Emily thought, watching the city lights, we need to lose ourselves to truly find ourselves. And for the first time in a long while, she felt genuinely hopeful about the future. The conference in Miami turned out to be much more than just a professional update. Emily arrived in the city on a sunny September morning, the sea breeze bringing a sense of renewal. The event hotel, located by the waterfront, offered a stunning view that seemed to reflect the possibilities opening up in her life. During check-in, Emily observed the comings and goings of legal professionals, doctors, and researchers when a deep voice caught her attention. "Excuse me, could you help me? I think I dropped my badge around here." Turning around, she found herself face to face with a tall man around 40 years old, with graying hair at his temples and intense green eyes. He was crouched down, searching for something under the registration table. "Of course," Emily replied, bending down to help. "What's your name?" "Nathan Thompson," he answered with a smile. "I'm one of the speakers on the reproductive rights panel." Emily found the badge near one of the table legs. "Here it is, Dr. Nathan Thompson," she read aloud, handing it to him. "Specialist in medical and reproductive law. Impressive." "Please, just Nathan," he said, pinning the badge to his jacket. "And you are Emily Almeida, civil law professor in Chicago. You're the author of that article on autonomy in reproductive decisions that was published in the Family Law Review?" Nathan asked, his eyes shining with recognition. Emily blushed slightly. She hadn't expected anyone to have read her latest work, especially one of the keynote speakers at the conference. Yes, that's me. I didn't realize it had circulated so widely. Your article is brilliant, he praised genuinely. In fact, I plan to cite it in my talk tomorrow. The way you approach the issue of mutual consent in fertility treatments is revolutionary. The conversation flowed naturally as they walked together to the main auditorium. Nathan had a captivating way of discussing medical law, blending technical knowledge with practical cases, from his experience as a lawyer specializing in assisted reproduction. During the coffee break after the first lecture, they met again. Emily discovered that Nathan was also a professor, teaching at a university in Rio de Janeiro, and that he had specialized in medical law after witnessing his sister's struggles with fertility treatments firsthand. The system is still very flawed when it comes to protecting people's reproductive rights, he commented, as they shared a table, especially when we talk about access to treatments and information. Emily felt an immediate connection to those words. That's exactly what motivated me to research the topic, she confessed, surprising herself with her own openness. I went through a personal situation that made me realize how much prejudice and misinformation still exist in this area. Nathan listened to her with genuine attention, without judgment. It was refreshing to be able to share her experiences with someone who truly understood the complexities of the subject. The afternoon lectures were even more interesting, with discussions about new reproductive technologies and their legal implications. Emily took furious notes, her mind buzzing with ideas for future articles and classes. At the end of the day, when most participants had already left, Emily found Nathan again in the hotel lobby. Some colleagues are organizing a dinner to discuss the first day of the conference, he mentioned. Would you like to join us? Emily hesitated for a moment. Normally, she preferred to keep to herself at professional events, but something about Nathan made her feel at ease. I'd love to, she replied with a smile. The dinner took place at a seaside restaurant with a spectacular view of the sunset. The conversation flowed naturally among the group, but Emily noticed how Nathan always made sure to include her in the discussions, valuing her opinions and experiences. Do you have plans to continue researching in this area? He asked during a quieter moment. Actually, yes, Emily replied, feeling excited to share her projects. I'm thinking of developing a research line on the psychological and legal impact of the refusal to investigate infertility cases. Nathan's eyes lit up with interest. You know, I'm coordinating a research group on exactly that in Rio. Maybe we could establish a partnership between our universities. The possibility of an academic collaboration with someone so respected in the field made Emily's heart race. It wasn't just the professional opportunity that excited her, but also the chance to work with someone who seemed to share her passion for the subject. The rest of the evening passed quickly, filled with academic discussions and laughter. As the group began to disperse, Nathan offered to walk Emily back to her hotel. My lecture is the first one tomorrow, he mentioned as they walked along the waterfront. I hope you'll be there. I'd really like to hear your thoughts afterward. I wouldn't miss it for anything, Emily replied, realizing that for the first time in a long while, she felt genuinely excited about the future. As they said goodbye at the hotel entrance, Nathan hesitated for a moment. Emily, I know this might seem sudden, but I'd like to stay in touch after the conference. Your work and ideas are incredibly valuable to the field. Emily felt a pleasant warmth spread through her chest. Of course, we can exchange emails and maybe even develop that partnership between our universities. As she headed up to her room, Emily reflected on how a simple academic conference was turning into a turning point in her life. Not just professionally, but in ways she hadn't expected. In her room, she opened her laptop to review her notes from the day, but her thoughts kept drifting back to her conversations with Nathan. There was something special about the way he treated her, with professional respect and a kindness she hadn't experienced in a long time. Before going to bed, Emily received a message on the conference app. It was Nathan sharing some articles related to the topics they had discussed over dinner. An involuntary smile spread across her lips as she saved the files to read the next day. Lying in bed, watching the city lights through the window, Emily realized that this conference was becoming much more than a professional update. It was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, filled with possibilities she was only just beginning to glimpse. Nathan's presentation the next morning exceeded all of Emily's expectations. With ease and passion for the subject, he delved into the complexities of reproductive rights, citing her article eloquently and making connections she hadn't even noticed in her own research. "The work of Professor Emily Almeida," he said during his presentation, his eyes meeting hers in the audience, "brings us a fundamental perspective on how the law needs to adapt to the emotional and psychological realities of infertility cases." After the presentation, as the attendees dispersed for the coffee break, Emily remained seated, organizing her notes. Nathan approached her row. "So, was I too harsh on your article?" he joked, sitting down beside her. "On the contrary," Emily replied, smiling. "You uncovered layers of meaning I hadn't even realized when I wrote it. Sometimes we need an outside perspective to see the full potential of our own work," he commented, his tone more serious. "Emily, I was thinking, do you have plans for lunch? I'd like to discuss some ideas about that potential partnership between our universities." Lunch took place at a small restaurant near the convention center. Between courses, the conversation flowed naturally from academia to more personal topics. "So you decided to specialize in medical law because of your sister?" Emily asked, genuinely interested. Nathan nodded, his eyes reflecting old memories. "Yes. Seeing her struggle for information, for basic rights. It completely changed my perspective on the system. And you? What brought you to this field?" Emily hesitated for a moment, but something about the way Nathan looked at her, without judgment, with genuine interest, made her feel safe to share. "Personal experience, actually," she began, playing with her napkin. "My marriage ended a few months ago largely because my ex-husband refused to get fertility tests. He preferred to blame me for not being able to have children." Nathan frowned, visibly bothered. "That's more common than it should be. Prejudice and male pride are still huge barriers in infertility treatment." "The most ironic part," Emily continued, feeling an inexplicable relief in sharing her story, "is that after getting my own tests, I found out I don't have any fertility issues." "How did you feel when you discovered that?" "Free," she answered without hesitation. "It was like years of guilt and self-doubt were washed away all at once. Now I'm focused on rebuilding my life, reconnecting with my passion for teaching." "And maybe fulfilling your dream of becoming a mother?" Nathan asked softly. Emily smiled, surprising herself with her own certainty. "Yes, but now on my own terms. I've been researching independent production, the possibilities that reproductive medicine offers." "You know," Nathan began, leaning slightly over the table, "I'm developing a project in Miami about access to information on assisted reproduction. It's a program aimed at democratizing knowledge about reproductive rights and treatment options. Maybe we could expand that to Chicago." Emily's eyes sparkled with interest. "That would be amazing. We could create a support network, maybe even a specialized legal guidance center." The rest of lunch was dedicated to brainstorming ideas for the project, with Emily and Nathan sharing visions and experiences. The enthusiasm was palpable, and Emily realized it had been a long time since she felt so excited about a professional prospect. When they finally checked the time, they realized they had missed the first afternoon lecture. "I guess we got a little carried away," Nathan laughed, asking for the check. "It was worth it," Emily replied sincerely. "Sometimes the best ideas come when we least expect them." As they left the restaurant, walking side by side back to the convention center, Emily felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in a long time. It wasn't just the excitement about the potential project, but something more, a genuine connection that went beyond the professional. "Emily," Nathan suddenly stopped, turning to her. "I know this might seem sudden, but I'd like to extend an invitation to you. Next week I have a meeting at my institute in Miami to discuss exactly this kind of project. I'd like you to join if you can." The invitation caught Emily off guard, but the answer came naturally. "I'd love to. I can rearrange my classes to fit in the trip." "Great," Nathan's smile lit up his face. "And maybe we could take the opportunity to continue our conversation in a less academic setting." Emily felt her heart skip a beat. "That would be very nice," she replied, surprising herself with her own boldness. Returning to the conference, Emily realized that something had fundamentally shifted in her perspective. What started as a professional trip was turning into something much more significant, perhaps the beginning of a new phase in her life, where her painful experiences could be transformed into something positive, something that could help others. And maybe, just maybe, this new path didn't have to be walked alone. A week after the conference, Emily found herself organizing her move to a smaller apartment in Brooklyn. The decision to sell the property she got from the divorce had been liberating, and each box she packed seemed to carry away a bit of the weight of the past. "Are you sure you don't want help with this?" Sophia asked, watching her friend methodically catalogue her law books. "Actually," Emily replied, adjusting her glasses, "I need your help with something else. I'm going to Miami next week for a meeting at Nathan's Institute, and I'd like you to cover my classes on Thursday and Friday." Sophia raised an eyebrow, a mischievous smile forming on her lips. "Nathan, the speaker from the conference, the one you haven't stopped mentioning since you got back?" Emily blushed slightly but maintained her professional tone. "Yes, him. We're developing a project about access to information on assisted reproduction. It's an incredible opportunity to expand our research area." "I see," Sophia replied, still smiling. "And the fact that he's charming, smart, and clearly interested in you has nothing to do with it?" "Sophia," Emily protested, but couldn't hold back a smile. "It's strictly professional." "For now," her friend added, grabbing another stack of books to organize. "But seriously, Em, it's good to see you like this, excited, making plans. You deserve it." Emily paused for a moment, reflecting on her friend's words. It was true. Since the conference, she had felt different, lighter, more confident. The daily messages exchanged with Nathan, though mostly professional, brought a special spark to her days. "You know what's most interesting?" she commented, sitting on the floor next to a half-full box. "For the first time in a long time, I don't feel pressured. It's like things are flowing naturally." "Maybe because now you're living life on your own terms," Sophia observed wisely. The week flew by between classes, organizing the move and preparing for the trip to Rio. Emily had dedicated herself to studying Nathan's project in depth, taking notes and developing suggestions for its implementation in Chicago. The night before the trip, as she finished packing her suitcase, she received a message from Nathan. "Reviewing your latest suggestions for the project. Your ideas about free legal counseling are brilliant. I can't wait to discuss them in person. Shall we confirm our dinner after the meeting?" Emily smiled at her phone, typing an affirmative response. Her heart beat a little faster at the thought of their reunion. The flight to Rio the next morning was smooth, giving Emily time to review her notes. Nathan's Institute was located in a modern building in the city center, with an impressive view of Guanabara Bay. "Emily!" a familiar voice called out as soon as she stepped off the elevator. Nathan came to meet her, his warm smile momentarily making her forget her nervousness. "Welcome to the Institute for Reproductive Rights." The meeting was intense and productive. Emily presented her proposals with confidence, impressing the team with her knowledge and practical vision. The idea of creating an integrated network of legal and psychological support for people facing fertility issues was met with enthusiasm. "Your personal experience brings a unique perspective to the project," one of the coordinators commented after the presentation. "That's exactly what we need. Someone who understands not just the theory, but the emotional reality involved." After the meeting, as they walked to a seaside restaurant, Nathan seemed especially animated. "They loved you," he remarked. "In fact, a proposal came up that I'd like to discuss over dinner." The restaurant was elegant yet cozy, with tables arranged on a deck overlooking the beach. The sound of the waves provided the perfect soundtrack for the evening. "So," Nathan began after they placed their orders, "the Institute is planning to open a branch in Chicago, and we'd like you to coordinate the project." Emily nearly choked on her wine. "What?" "It would be a part-time position initially, allowing you to keep your university classes," he continued, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "But you'd have full autonomy to develop the program according to your vision." "Nathan, this is incredible," Emily replied, still processing the information. "But wouldn't it be a conflict of interest considering that we—" She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. What were they, after all? Nathan smiled softly, extending his hand across the table to touch hers. "Considering we have a special connection? I don't see why it would be a problem. In fact, I think our synergy would only benefit the project." His touch was warm and comforting, and Emily felt her heart race. There, under the starry sky of Rio de Janeiro, with the sound of the sea in the background, she realized she was ready to embrace all the possibilities life was offering her, both professional and personal. "In that case," she replied, intertwining her fingers with his, "I think we have a lot to talk about regarding the future." The night stretched on in a perfect blend of professional discussions and moments of growing intimacy. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt like all the pieces of her life were falling into place naturally, as if the universe were conspiring in her favor. And as she watched Nathan speak passionately about his plans for the Institute, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be, on the threshold of a new beginning, filled with promise and possibility. 3 months had passed since the trip to Rio de Janeiro, and Emily's life had completely transformed. Her new apartment in Brooklyn, though smaller, perfectly reflected her new phase. Light walls adorned with modern art, a meticulously organized library, and most importantly, no trace of the past she had decided to leave behind. The implementation of the project in Chicago was progressing rapidly. Emily had managed to establish partnerships with 2 fertility clinics and a group of specialized psychologists. Her mornings were dedicated to teaching at the university, and her afternoons to developing the program at the Institute's newly opened office. "Dr. Emily?" Her assistant Emma interrupted her thoughts. "The first patient for legal counseling has arrived." Emily adjusted her posture in her chair, preparing for the consultation. A young woman entered the room timidly, carrying a folder full of documents. "Please have a seat," Emily greeted her with a warm smile. "How can I help you?" "My name is Olivia," the woman began nervously. I'm going through a situation very similar to what I read about you in that magazine interview." Emily felt a warmth in her chest. The interview she had given about her personal experience and the new project was having exactly the impact she had hoped for, creating a bridge of connection with others going through similar situations. As she listened to Olivia's story, Emily took detailed notes. It was another case of a couple where the husband refused to undergo tests, preferring to blame his wife for the absence of children. "Olivia," Emily began gently after hearing the entire account, "I want you to know that you're not alone on this journey. We'll assist you with all the necessary legal guidance and refer you to our psychological support team." After the consultation, Emily checked her phone and found a message from Nathan. "Video call in 10 minutes to discuss the project's expansion. After that, I have some news to share." The virtual meeting was productive, with Nathan presenting the positive results from Rio de Janeiro and discussing strategies to expand the reach in Chicago. But it was after the formal part that the conversation became more interesting. "So," he began, his smiling face filling the screen, "I managed to organize my schedule to spend a week in Chicago next month. I need to personally oversee the project's progress, of course." "Of course," Emily replied with a knowing smile. Over the past few months between his visits to Chicago and hers to Rio, their relationship had evolved naturally, finding a perfect balance between the professional and the personal. "And," he continued, seeming slightly nervous even through the screen, "I was thinking about looking at some apartments while I'm there. You know, to have a base in Chicago, since the project is growing so much." Emily's heart raced. They had already discussed the possibility of Nathan partially moving to Chicago, but this was the first time he had mentioned something concrete. "I know some great realtors," she replied, trying to keep her voice casual despite the excitement. "I can schedule some viewings for when you're here." That evening, during her family law class, Emily found herself reflecting on how much her life had changed. Her students noticed how much more energetic she was, how much more passionate she was about what she taught. Her personal experiences had become valuable tools for making the law more human and accessible. "Professor," A student approached her after class. "I read about the Institute's project. It's inspiring to see how you turned a difficult experience into something so positive for others." Emily smiled, touched by the comment. "Sometimes, our greatest pains can become our greatest strength to help others." At home, getting ready for bed, Emily received another message from Nathan. "I just booked the tickets. I arrive on the 15th. I can't wait to see you." Lying in her bed, Emily gazed at the city lights through the window. Her new apartment had a different view from the previous one, less imposing perhaps, but much cozier. Like her current life, less concerned with appearances and others' expectations, more focused on what truly mattered. Her thoughts drifted to the future. The project was growing. Her relationship with Nathan was strengthening every day, and for the first time in a long while she felt truly fulfilled. But there was still a dream taking shape in her mind, a dream that now seemed more possible than ever. On the nightstand, a card from Dr. Victoria, her fertility doctor, awaited a decision. Emily had scheduled an appointment for the following week. It was time to explore her own possibilities of motherhood, this time on her own terms and timeline. With a smile on her lips, she closed her eyes, feeling grateful for all the transformations life had brought her. Tomorrow was full of promises, and she was ready to embrace them all. The waiting room at Dr. Victoria's office was exactly as Emily remembered, cozy with its soft-toned walls and relaxing background music. This time, however, she wasn't alone. Nathan held her hand, his thumb gently tracing circles on her palm, a silent gesture of support. "Are you sure you want to do this with me?" Emily asked, her voice soft. "It's a very personal decision, and our relationship is still new," Nathan completed with a gentle smile. "Emily, in the past few months, we've shared more than many couples do in years of being together. I want to be by your side for all the important decisions." Before they could continue the conversation, the receptionist called Emily's name. Dr. Victoria greeted them with a warm smile, her eyes lighting up as she saw the couple. "Emily, it's so good to see you again," she greeted, turning to Nathan. "And you must be the famous Dr. Nathan Thompson. Emily has told me so much about your work at the Institute." The consultation was detailed and enlightening. The doctor explained all the available options for in vitro fertilization, the necessary procedures, and the success rates. Emily absorbed every piece of information attentively, while Nathan asked pertinent questions about the medical and legal aspects of the process. "Considering your age and previous tests," Dr. Victoria concluded, "your chances are very good. We can start the procedures as soon as you feel ready." Leaving the clinic, Emily and Nathan walked to a nearby cafe. The Chicago autumn painted the streets with golden leaves, creating the perfect atmosphere for important decisions. "What are you thinking?" Nathan asked softly after they placed their orders. Emily took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. "It's funny. For years, this dream seemed so distant, almost impossible. Now that it's within reach, I feel scared," he suggested. "Not exactly," she smiled. "More like empowered. For the first time, I feel like I have complete control over this decision, and having you by my side, supporting me without pressure, makes all the difference." Nathan reached across the table, intertwining his fingers with hers. "You know, when my sister went through the fertilization process, I learned that timing is everything. There's no rush, Emily. We can take it one step at a time." The coffee arrived and they spent the next hour discussing not only the treatment, but also their plans for the future. Nathan had found the perfect apartment in Chicago, just a few blocks from the Institute's new office. "Actually," he commented, seeming slightly nervous, "I was thinking maybe it doesn't make sense for me to keep two apartments. If you're okay with it, we could—" Emily felt her heart race. "Nathan Thompson, are you asking me to move in together?" "I'm asking us to build a life together," he replied, his green eyes fixed on hers. "With or without a baby, with or without treatment. I want to be by your side in every decision, in every moment." The tears Emily had been holding back finally escaped. "Yes," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "Yes, to everything." Back at work that afternoon, Emily had a special glow in her eyes. As she conducted another legal counseling session, she realized how her own story was becoming a source of hope for others. The most important thing, she explained to a client, is to understand that you have choices, that your worth and your decisions don't depend on anyone's approval. At the end of the day, sitting in her office, Emily opened her planner and marked the date for the start of the treatment. 3 months from then, enough time to organize the move and prepare. Emotionally, her phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. "Coffee tomorrow, I need to know all the details." Emily smiled, typing an affirmative response. Her friend had been her safe harbor during the toughest times, and she deserved to share in the joys, too. At home, while organizing some documents, Emily came across the old divorce papers. It was surreal to think about how much her life had changed in such a short time. The apartment Daniel had left as compensation had become her first step toward independence, and now she was about to start a new chapter, entirely on her own terms. Her phone rang. It was Nathan, already at the airport, heading back to New York. "Just wanted to say goodnight," he said, his voice conveying all the affection they felt for each other. "And I can't wait to start our life together." That night, lying in bed, Emily allowed herself to dream about the future. She pictured the new apartment she would share with Nathan, imagined the hectic mornings between the institute and the university, and for the first time, let herself think concretely about the possibility of becoming a mother. It wouldn't be an easy journey, she knew that. The fertility treatment would be challenging, both physically and emotionally, but this time it would be different. It would be her choice, her time, her path. And most importantly, she would have someone by her side who supported her unconditionally, respected her decisions, and shared her dreams. With a smile on her lips, Emily fell asleep, her heart light with the certainty that, regardless of the outcome, she was exactly where she was meant to be. The apartment Nathan had chosen in Manhattan was exactly as he had described in the photos, spacious, bright, and with a balcony that offered a stunning view of the tree-lined neighborhood. Emily walked through the empty rooms, imagining how they would decorate each space together. "The master bedroom has a spacious ensuite," commented the realtor, handing over the keys. "And the room next door would be perfect for a nursery, if you're planning." Emily and Nathan exchanged a knowing glance. No one except Sophia and Dr. Victoria knew about their plans to start fertility treatment. "We'll furnish it little by little," Nathan remarked, hugging Emily from behind as they looked out at the city from the balcony. "No rush, building our space together." The move happened gradually over the following weeks. Emily discovered that she loved this joint construction of a home, choosing the furniture, arranging the books on the shelves, the way their lives naturally intertwined with every decision. At the institute, work remained intense and rewarding. The legal support program had expanded, and they now had a full multidisciplinary team. Emily coordinated weekly meetings where complex cases were discussed, always keeping the focus on humanizing care. "Your personal experience makes all the difference," one of the psychologists commented during one of these meetings. "The patients feel they can truly trust us." On a particularly busy morning, as Emily was organizing some reports in her office, she received an unexpected visit. Olivia, her first patient at the institute, appeared with a radiant smile. "I needed to share this in person," she said, sitting down. "After all the guidance I received here, I found the courage to separate. And you know what? I started my own fertility treatment last week." Emily felt her eyes well up. "Olivia, that's wonderful. How are you feeling?" "Free," she replied, her eyes shining. "For the first time, I feel like I'm living my life on my own terms." That conversation echoed in Emily's mind for the rest of the day. That evening, as she and Nathan prepared dinner together, a new routine they had established, she shared her thoughts. "Sometimes I wonder if everything I went through had a greater purpose," she commented, chopping vegetables. "See if I needed to live through that to be able to help others now." Nathan stopped what he was doing and hugged her from behind. "You turned your pain into strength, Em. That's what makes you special." The following week, Emily had her first preparatory consultation for fertility treatment. Dr. Victoria explained the protocol they would follow in detail. "Considering your tests and age," the doctor commented, reviewing the results, "I suggest we start with a full cycle of ovarian stimulation. The chances are very good." Nathan, who had rearranged his schedule to be present at all important appointments, took meticulous notes. His background in medical law made him especially attentive to the details of the procedure. "And what about the emotional aspects?" he asked. "What kind of support can we expect during the process?" Dr. Victoria smiled, clearly approving of his involvement. "We have a team of psychologists specialized in assisted reproduction. It's crucial to maintain emotional balance during treatment." Leaving the clinic, Emily felt a mix of anxiety and hope. Nathan, sensing her restlessness, suggested a walk in the nearby park. "Do you know what impresses me most about you?" he commented as they walked hand in hand. "Your courage. Even after everything you've been through, you didn't give up on your dream." Emily stopped, turning to face him. "It's different now. Before it was a dream weighed down by expectations and demands. Today it's a conscious choice, made on my own time, with someone who supports me unconditionally." That night, in their new home, Emily was organizing some boxes left over from the move when she found an old photo album. Between the pages, she discovered a photo of herself as a teenager holding a baby, her cousin's child. "Did you find something interesting?" Nathan asked, sitting down beside her on the couch. "Just memories," she replied, showing him the photo. "You know, even after everything, I never lost the certainty that I would be a mother one day. I just didn't know the path would be so different from what I imagined." Nathan hugged her, gently kissing her forehead. "Sometimes the best paths are the ones we don't plan." As they got ready for bed, Emily received a message from Sophia. "Friend, I just heard about another success story at the Institute. You're changing lives." On the bedroom balcony, looking out at the city lights, Emily reflected on how her life had transformed. The new apartment, the meaningful work, the mature and true love she had found in Nathan, and now the real possibility of fulfilling her dream of motherhood. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked, joining her on the balcony. "How amazing it is when we let life surprise us," she replied, snuggling into his arms. "And how I can hardly wait to see what's coming next." The start of the fertility treatment coincided with the arrival of spring in Chicago. Emily watched the flowering jaboticaba trees in the building's garden as she waited for the elevator, thinking about how nature had perfect timing for renewal. The first phase of the treatment involved daily hormone injections, and Emily surprised herself with her own strength in administering them. Nathan was always there, either physically or via video call when he had to be in New York, offering support and words of encouragement. "How are you feeling today?" he asked during breakfast, noticing she seemed quieter than usual. "A little anxious," Emily admitted, absent-mindedly stirring her coffee. "I have my first monitoring ultrasound today. Do you want me to rearrange?" "Am I scheduled to go with you?" Emily smiled, touched by the offer. "You don't have to, it's just a routine checkup. Besides, you have that important meeting in New York." At Dr. Victoria's office, Emily tried to control her anxiety as she waited for the exam results. The doctor carefully analyzed the images, a small smile forming on her lips. "You're responding very well to the treatment, Emily," she commented, pointing to the screen. "The follicles are developing exactly as we hoped." Leaving the clinic, Emily felt a wave of emotion wash over her. It was real. Her body was responding. Her dream was taking shape. On her way to the Institute, she stopped at a flower shop and bought a small pot of orchids for her office, a symbol of her own blossoming. At work, a surprise awaited her. Olivia, your former patient who had started her own treatment, was organizing a support group for women undergoing assisted reproduction. "I thought you could give us some legal guidance," Olivia suggested enthusiastically. "Your story inspires so many people, Emily." The idea of the support group quickly gained momentum. In partnership with the Institute's team of psychologists, they established bi-weekly meetings where practical and emotional aspects of the process were openly discussed. During one of these meetings, while listening to the stories of other women, Emily felt a deep connection with each shared experience. Every story, every challenge resonated in some way with her own journey. The hardest part, one participant commented, is dealing with expectations, ours and others. That's why this space is so important, Emily replied, her voice soft but firm. Here we can be honest about our fears and hopes. That evening, during her daily video call with Nathan, she shared the day's events. You know what I realized today, she said, curled up on the couch with her laptop. How different it is to go through this process with a support network, being able to openly share what we're experiencing. Nathan smiled through the screen. You're creating something very special at the Institute, Em. You're turning your experience into a safe space for others. Days turned into weeks and the treatment progressed as planned. Emily developed a new routine, waking up early for the injections, keeping a treatment journal, and actively participating in the support group discussions. One particularly significant morning, after another monitoring ultrasound, Dr. Victoria announced that it was time to schedule the egg retrieval. The follicles have reached the ideal size, she explained, showing the images. We'll perform the procedure next week. Emily immediately called Nathan, who was already on his way to Chicago to be present for the procedure. I'm nervous, she admitted during dinner that night after he arrived. What if we don't get enough? Eggs, what if... Nathan held her hands across the table. One step at a time, remember. You've come so far, Em. We'll keep going together, no matter the outcome. The night before the procedure, while organizing some documents in her home office, Emily found an old photo, her and Daniel in their old house, in a moment that seemed to belong to another life. Caught you deep in thought, Nathan commented, entering the office with 2 cups of tea. Just reflecting on how life takes turns, she replied, putting the photo away. A year ago, I was blaming myself for not being able to get pregnant, living in a marriage that diminished me. Now you're living your dreams on your own terms, he finished, kissing her forehead. Emily smiled, realizing the truth in those words. Every injection, every test, every small victory in this process was her choice, her path, and having Nathan by her side, supporting her unconditionally, made everything more meaningful. Tomorrow is a big day, she whispered as they prepared for bed. The first of many, Nathan replied, holding her, and I'll be here for all of them. That night, Emily slept with a mix of anxiety and hope. Tomorrow would be just the first step in a new phase of her journey, but for the first time in her life, she felt completely ready to face whatever came her way. The day of the egg retrieval dawned with a typical Chicago drizzle. Emily woke up before the alarm, her heart racing with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Nathan was already in the kitchen, preparing chamomile tea. She needed to be fasting for the procedure. Did you sleep well? He asked, handing her a small cup. More or less, Emily replied, sipping the hot liquid. I kept thinking about everything that brought us here. At the clinic, Dr. Victoria greeted them with her usual reassuring smile. The medical team explained each step of the procedure in detail as they prepared Emily. Remember, the doctor commented while adjusting the monitor, you responded extraordinarily well to the treatment. We have every reason to be optimistic. Nathan held Emily's hand until the last possible moment, before she was taken into the procedure room. I'll be here when you wake up, he promised, kissing her forehead. The procedure lasted less than an hour. When Emily began to wake from sedation, the first thing she heard was Dr. Victoria's cheerful voice. We have excellent news. We were able to collect 12 eggs, all of which look very good. Emily felt tears of relief stream down her face. Nathan, who was already by her side again, gently wiped them away. Now we move on to the fertilization phase, the doctor continued. In 5 days, we'll have the results of the embryo development. The following days were an exercise in patience. Emily tried to stay busy with work at the institute and her university classes, but her thoughts constantly returned to the tiny embryos developing in the lab. In the support group, she shared her experience with the other participants. The most surreal thing, she commented during a meeting, is thinking that part of our dream is there, developing in a lab while we go on with our lives as usual. Olivia, who was a few weeks ahead in her own treatment, smiled understandingly. It's like a part of our heart is somewhere else, isn't it? On the 4th day after the retrieval, Emily received a call from the clinic asking her and Nathan to come in the next day for a meeting with Dr. Victoria. The night was long, with both of them alternating between moments of anxiety and attempts to stay optimistic. "Regardless of the outcome," Nathan said as they lay in bed, "we've come so far already. You're amazing, you know that?" The next morning, sitting in Dr. Victoria's office, Emily squeezed Nathan's hand as they waited for the news. "Out of the 12 eggs collected," the doctor began, her face lighting up with a smile, "7 developed into excellent quality embryos. It's an exceptional result." Emily felt as if all the air had been sucked from her lungs. "7?" she repeated, incredulous. "Yes," the doctor confirmed, "and 3 of them are at the perfect stage for immediate transfer if you're ready." Nathan hugged Emily, who was now openly crying. "There are little stars," he whispered in her ear. Dr. Victoria continued explaining the next step, the embryo transfer. "Considering your age and the quality of the embryos, I suggest we transfer 3 of them. The other 4 will be frozen for future attempts if needed." "3?" Emily asked, her eyes wide. "Does that mean—" "Yes," the doctor smiled. "There is a possibility of a multiple pregnancy. We need to discuss if you're prepared for that possibility." On the way home, Emily was silent, processing all the information. Nathan respected her space, simply holding her hand as he drove. "What are you thinking about?" he finally asked when they arrived home. Emily turned to him, her eyes shining. "I'm thinking about how ironic life is. I spent years being blamed for not being able to get pregnant, and now there's a possibility of having 3 babies at once." Nathan hugged her, kissing the top of her head. "And how do you feel about that?" "Scared," she admitted, "but also complete. Like everything finally makes sense." That night, sitting on the balcony of their apartment, Emily and Nathan talked at length about the future. They discussed fears, expectations, and dreams. They talked about how they would adapt their lives for a possible multiple pregnancy, about the changes they would need to make in the apartment. "You know what's most amazing?" Emily commented, nestled in Nathan's arms. "How every decision we made brought us here. Even the hard moments had a purpose." "And now we have 7 little reasons to believe in miracles," Nathan added, his hand resting gently on Emily's belly, where soon their dreams might begin to grow. The embryo transfer room was kept at a specific temperature, and Emily felt a slight shiver, unsure if it was from the cold or the emotion of the moment. Nathan, dressed in the hospital attire required by protocol, held her hand as Dr. Victoria prepared everything for the procedure. "The 3 embryos we selected are of exceptional quality," the doctor explained, showing the microscopic images on the screen. "Each of them is at the ideal stage of development." Emily watched in awe at those tiny dots on the screen, their little stars, as she and Nathan had affectionately started calling them. It was surreal to think that there in those tiny structures lay the potential to fulfill their deepest dream. "Ready?" Dr. Victoria asked, positioning the catheter. Emily took a deep breath, squeezing Nathan's hand. "Ready." The procedure itself was quick and painless. As she lay still for the recommended 30 minutes after the transfer, Emily let her tears flow freely. "Are you okay?" Nathan asked softly, wiping her face. "It's perfect," she replied, smiling through the tears. "I'm just thinking about how we got here, how every hard moment was worth it." The following days were an exercise in patience and hope. Emily tried to maintain her normal routine, but every little sensation in her body seemed loaded with meaning. At the institute, she threw herself into work to try to control the anxiety. "How are you handling the weight?" Olivia asked during one of the support group meetings. She herself was in the early stages of her pregnancy after her second IVF attempt. "It's as if time has slowed down," Emily admitted. "Each day feels like an eternity." A week after the transfer, Emily woke up feeling slightly nauseous. Her heart raced. Could it be a sign? Nathan, who was preparing breakfast, noticed her expression as she walked into the kitchen. "Are you okay?" he asked, concerned. "I think so," she replied, placing a hand on her stomach. "I just feel different." The days dragged on until 2 weeks after the transfer. The time for the pregnancy test. Emily had promised herself she wouldn't take any home tests before, wanting to wait for the official blood test. On the morning of the test, she and Nathan arrived early at the clinic. The blood draw was quick, but the hours waiting for the results felt endless. Dr. Emily, her assistant at the institute, called her in the middle of the afternoon. The clinic is on the line. Emily felt her heart stop for a moment. Nathan, who was in his office discussing a new project, immediately stood up to hold her hand. "Hello?" she answered, her voice trembling slightly. "Emily." Dr. Victoria's cheerful voice came through the other end. "I have wonderful news. Your beta-HCG is extremely high. You're pregnant." The world seemed to spin for a moment. Emily felt her legs weaken and Nathan steadied her, guiding her to a chair. "The levels are very high," the doctor continued, "which could indicate a multiple pregnancy. We'll need to do an ultrasound next week to confirm how many embryos have implanted." After hanging up the phone, Emily remained silent for a few moments, her hands shaking. Nathan knelt in front of her, his eyes welling up. "We did it," she whispered, finally letting the tears fall. "I'm pregnant." The hug that followed was long and filled with emotion. Years of dreams, months of treatment, weeks of waiting, all culminating in this perfect moment. "I need to call Sophia," Emily said, still in Nathan's arms. "She's going to freak out." The following week passed in a blur of joy and anxiety. Emily began to notice small changes in her body. More sensitive breasts, a different kind of fatigue, bouts of nausea that strangely made her smile. On the day of the first ultrasound, the clinic's waiting room seemed to buzz with anticipation. Nathan held her hand, trying to convey calm, though she could feel he was just as nervous as she was. "Let's see what we have here," Dr. Victoria commented, starting the exam. The silence in the room was palpable as the doctor moved the transducer, her eyes fixed on the screen. Suddenly, a huge smile spread across her face. "Oh my God," she exclaimed, turning the monitor so Emily and Nathan could see. "Look here. 1, 2, and 3, all the embryos have successfully implanted." Emily felt the world spin again. "3?" she whispered, incredulous. "Yes," the doctor confirmed, pointing to the screen. 3 perfectly implanted gestational sacs, each with a tiny embryo developing. "Congratulations, you're expecting triplets." Nathan, who had slightly paled, squeezed Emily's hand tighter. "Triplets," he repeated, his voice choked. "Our 3 little stars." Emily couldn't take her eyes off the screen, where 3 small pulsing dots marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. 3 hearts beating, 3 lives growing, 3 miracles she had waited for so long. "A triplet pregnancy requires special care," Dr. Victoria began to explain, but Emily could barely process the words. Her mind was flooded with images of the future. 3 cribs, 3 smiles, 3 pairs of tiny arms reaching out for her. Leaving the clinic, Emily and Nathan walked in silence for a few moments, still processing the magnitude of the news. 3 babies, she finally said, stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. "We're going to have 3 babies." Nathan hugged her, laughing and crying at the same time. "I think we're going to need a bigger apartment," he joked, making her laugh. Through her tears. That night, lying in bed with her hand on her still flat stomach, Emily thought about how life had surprising ways of fulfilling our dreams. 3 babies, more than she had ever dreamed of, more than she could have imagined. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked, lying down beside her. "About how sometimes we need to go through storms to find not 1, but 3 rainbows," she replied, smiling through the endless tears of happiness. The news of the triplets spread quickly among friends and family. Sophia was the first to know, bursting into tears of joy over the phone. At the institute, the team organized a small surprise celebration, decorating Emily's office with 3 tiny star mobiles. 3 babies, Olivia exclaimed during the support group meeting. "You've always been our inspiration, Emily, and now you're tripling that inspiration." The following weeks were a whirlwind of adjustments and discoveries. A triplet pregnancy required special care, and Emily found herself immersed in a new routine of more frequent appointments and specific recommendations. "We need to monitor everything closely," Dr. Victoria explained during a checkup. "Multiple pregnancies require extra attention, Or in this case, triple the attention, she joked. At home, Nathan had turned into a dedicated researcher on triplet pregnancies. Every night he shared some new piece of information he had discovered with Emily. "Did you know that less than 0.1% of pregnancies are triplets?" he commented one evening as they prepared dinner. "Our little stars are truly special." The first big change came when Emily reached 12 weeks of pregnancy. During the morphological ultrasound, they found out they were expecting 3 girls. "3 princesses," Nathan exclaimed, emotional as they watched the little ones moving. On the screen, "You're building a soccer team in there, love." Emily laughed, but her tears of joy wouldn't stop falling. 3 girls. I can't wait to meet them." The news of the 3 girls sparked a wave of planning. The apartment, though spacious, would need significant adjustments to accommodate the triplets. Nathan spent days researching the best designs for the baby's room. "We need to think of different colors for each one," he commented, showing some ideas on his tablet, to help them develop their own identities early on. Emily smiled, touched by his attention to details she hadn't even considered yet. "What about the names?" she asked. "Have you thought of any?" "Actually, yes," Nathan replied, looking a bit nervous. "I was thinking of star names, since we always call them our little stars." "That's perfect," Emily exclaimed, her eyes shining. "What did you come up with?" "How about Stella, Luna, and Aurora?" he suggested, each with their own special glow. Emily felt her heart melt. The names were perfect, different yet connected by a common theme, just like their girls would be. At work, Emily began preparing her team for her eventual leave. Carrying triplets would require her to go on maternity leave earlier than usual. "Don't worry," Sophia reassured her during a meeting. "We'll keep everything running smoothly until you come back with your 3 little princesses." As her belly grew, Emily discovered new challenges and joys. Simple tasks like tying her shoes became complex adventures, and finding comfortable clothes for a triplet pregnancy felt nearly impossible. "How can 3 babies take up so much space?" she joked one day, looking at her reflection in the mirror. Her belly, at just 20 weeks, already looked bigger than many full-term pregnancies. Nathan, who watched her with adoration, came up behind her and hugged her expanding waist. There are little warriors claiming their space in the world. Nights became special moments of connection. Nathan developed the habit of reading stories to the babies before bed, his soft voice making the little ones move inside Emily's belly. "They already recognize your voice," Emily commented, feeling the synchronized movements. "It's like they're dancing." On a particularly emotional afternoon, while organizing the baby's room, Emily found an old box with mementos from her previous marriage. Among the items was a photo of her crying after yet another negative pregnancy test. "Look how life turns around," she remarked, showing the photo to Nathan. "Back then, I felt so broken, so incomplete, and now I'm carrying 3 miracles." Nathan hugged her from behind, his hands resting on the belly where their daughters were growing. "You were never broken, Em. You just needed to find the right path to make your dreams come true." The weekly appointments with Dr. Victoria became moments of pure joy. Each ultrasound revealed more details about the girls' personalities. One more active, another calmer, the third always hiding her face. "They're already so different," the doctor commented during a checkup. "And look how they're positioned. It's like they're hugging each other." Emily and Nathan began creating small rituals to connect with each of their babies. Every morning they sang 3 different songs, one for each little star. At night, Nathan would talk to each one individually, sharing about his day. "Stella, Luna, and Aurora," he whispered, kissing different spots on Emily's belly. "Daddy already loves you so much." In her pregnancy journal, Emily documented every moment, every sensation. "Dear daughters," she wrote one night, "you are living proof that dreams don't have an expiration date. Sometimes they just wait for the perfect moment to come true. And in our case, that moment came 3-fold. Life had completely transformed, yet Emily had never felt so fulfilled. Every challenge of the multiple pregnancy was met with gratitude, every necessary adjustment made with love. 3 times the love, she often said, when someone commented on the difficulties of a triplet pregnancy. 3 times the dreams come true. And so, between preparations, adjustments, and lots of love, Emily and Nathan eagerly awaited the arrival of their 3 little stars, who had turned their story of pain into a fairy tale multiplied by 3. At 6 months pregnant, Emily's belly was already turning heads wherever she went. People would always stop to comment, some even asking to touch it, fascinated by the idea of triplets. "It's like I'm a circus attraction," she joked with Nathan during a shopping trip, after yet another person stopped to ask about the pregnancy. "You're a walking statistical rarity," he replied with a smile, carrying the bags from their latest baby purchases. The girls' room was almost ready. The walls had been painted in soft shades of lilac, pink, and light blue, each color representing a specific space for one of the triplets. 3 white cribs, arranged in a star shape, occupied the center of the room. "Look what arrived today," Sophia announced, walking into the apartment with 3 different small mobiles. Stars for Stella, moons for Luna, and northern lights for Aurora. Emily felt tears welling up, something that happened often lately. "They're perfect," she whispered, admiring the delicate objects her friend had specially made for her goddaughters. On a quiet Saturday, while organizing the tiny clothes in the closets, each labeled with the baby's initials, Emily felt a different kind of movement in her belly. "Nathan," she called, placing her hand on a specific spot. "I think they're playing tag in there." Nathan rushed over to feel, his eyes filling with tears as he noticed the synchronized movements. "It's amazing how they already seem to have such distinct personalities," he remarked. "Aurora always starts the commotion, Stella follows, and Luna seems to try to calm her sisters down." At the institute, Emily began preparing for her maternity leave. Dr. Victoria had recommended that she reduce her activities starting in the 7th month. "Triplet pregnancies require relative rest in the last trimester," the doctor explained during a checkup. "We need to keep them in there as long as possible." During one of the last support group meetings before her leave, Emily received an emotional surprise. Olivia, along with other participants, had organized a surprise baby shower. "We couldn't let our mentor go on leave without a special celebration," Olivia announced, moved. "You've taught us so much about strength and perseverance." The Institute's hall had been decorated with 3 large stars, each in the colors chosen for the girls. On a table, 3 identical cakes bore the names Stella, Luna, and Aurora in delicate gold lettering. "You're all amazing," Emily managed to say through tears, hugging each of the organizers. During the celebration, several women shared how Emily's story had impacted their own journeys. "When you shared your experience on the first day of the group," one participant commented, "I realized I wasn't alone, that it was possible to start over and make our dreams come true." At home, organizing the gifts from the baby shower, Emily reflected on how her life had transformed. Each tiny piece of clothing, each pair of shoes in triplicate, represented a dream that had grown beyond her original expectations. "I found this today," Nathan said, walking into the room with an envelope. "I thought you'd like to see this." Inside the envelope was the first ultrasound of the triplets, 3 tiny dots that had now transformed into 3 perfectly formed babies, moving and interacting in her belly. "It's amazing to think it all started with 3 little stars," Emily commented, gently stroking her prominent belly. That night, as they lay in bed, Nathan began his routine of talking to each of the girls. It was an intimate moment that Emily loved to witness. "Stella, my brightest star," he began, kissing a spot on her belly. "Luna, my little dreamer," another kiss, and Aurora, my dawn light, a final kiss. As if responding to their father's call, the 3 moved in sequence, bringing emotional smiles to both of them. "They already know exactly who's who," Emily observed, marveling. "How could they not?" Nathan replied, his eyes shining. "They're our little warriors who fought so hard to be here." The moment was interrupted by a particularly strong kick from Aurora, followed by her sisters. "I think they're hungry," Emily laughed, feeling the familiar hunger contractions of the babies. "I'll get your fruit smoothie," Nathan offered, already familiar with the nightly routine of his 4 girls. While she waited, Emily wrote another entry in her journal. My little stars, every day with you is a new discovery. Every movement, every hiccup, every moment of restlessness or calm makes me grateful for waiting for the right time to become a mother. The three of you are proof that some dreams need time to mature so they can come true in the most perfect way possible. The pregnancy progressed, and with it grew not only Emily's belly, but also the anticipation and joy for the imminent arrival of her three princesses. The future, which once seemed so uncertain, now shone with the light of three little stars. At the beginning of the 8th month of pregnancy, while Emily rested at home following her doctor's recommendations, unexpected news arrived through Sophia. Daniel, her ex-husband, had remarried and, after undergoing a full medical examination, discovered he was sterile. He's devastated, Sophia commented during a visit. Apparently, his new wife insisted on the tests after a few months of trying to conceive. Emily absorbed the information in silence, stroking her belly where her three daughters moved peacefully. It was a strange feeling. There was no anger or resentment, just a deep understanding of how the universe had its own plans. He asked, about you, Sophia continued hesitantly. He heard about your pregnancy and now he knows the truth, Emily finished softly, that the problem was never with me. That night, when Nathan came home, he found Emily thoughtful on the balcony watching the sunset. Everything okay? He asked, sitting beside her. Emily shared the news about Daniel, surprising herself with the serenity in her voice. You know, what's most interesting? I don't feel any satisfaction in knowing I was right, just gratitude for how everything turned out. Nathan kissed her forehead tenderly. Because that's exactly who you are, able to turn even the hardest experiences into lessons and growth. A few days later, Emily received an unexpected email from Daniel. It was a long message, full of apologies and explanations about how his pride and fear had destroyed not only their marriage, but also years of possibilities. I heard you're expecting triplets, he wrote. I can't help but think the universe has a peculiar sense of humor. You always deserved to be a mother, Emily. You were always stronger and braver than I ever gave you credit for. Emily showed the email to Nathan, who hugged her in silence. Do you want to reply? He asked gently. After a few moments of reflection, Emily began typing. Daniel, thank you for your message. Time teaches us many things, and one of them is that every experience, even the painful ones, has its purpose. Today I understand that I needed to go through all of that to be where I am now, happy, fulfilled, and awaiting my three little stars. I wish you peace and a new purpose in your life. Emily. In the following weeks, Emily learned through mutual acquaintances that Daniel had started attending support groups for men with fertility issues and was considering opening an NGO focused on the topic. It's interesting how life has its own ways of healing, she commented to Nathan during one of her morning sunbathing sessions on the balcony, part of her routine for vitamin D recommended by Dr. Victoria. Everyone finds their path in their own time, Nathan replied, adjusting the pillow behind Emily. The important thing is that you found yours. The pregnancy continued to progress well, although the physical challenges intensified each day. The triplets were growing rapidly, and Emily felt as if there was no more room in her body. It's amazing how they managed to organize themselves in there, Dr. Victoria remarked during an ultrasound. Stella always protecting Luna, and Aurora doing acrobatics in her little space. At home, the final preparations for the girls' arrival were being completed. The nursery was ready, with 3 cribs, 3 nursing chairs, and an entire wall covered, with a mural of stars, moons, and auroras. Can you imagine this space full of life in a few weeks? Nathan asked, hugging Emily from behind as they looked at the nursery. Actually, I can, she replied, feeling the babies move as if responding. They've already brought so much life to our existence even before being born. One afternoon, while organizing some baby clothes, Emily found an old memory box. Among photos and cards, there was the negative pregnancy test she had kept from years ago, a painful memory that now seemed to belong to another life. It's incredible how things change, she said to her daughters, caressing her belly. You 3 are proof that some dreams need to wait for the right moment to come true. And sometimes they come true in ways we never imagined. The institute continued to function perfectly under Sophia's temporary coordination. The support group had expanded, and success stories like Olivia's inspired more and more people. "Your legacy goes far beyond the legal field," Sophia commented during a visit. "You've created a space of comfort and hope." At night, during her routine of talking to the babies, Nathan shared stories about his day, plans for the future, and always ended with the same phrase, "My little stars, I can't wait to see you shine in our sky." Emily fell asleep every night with a smile on her lips, feeling her daughters move gently. The universe had answered her prayers not with one, but with 3 miracles, and each day brought new discoveries and joys. In her diary she wrote, "Dear Stella, Luna, and Aurora, every movement of yours is a reminder that the most beautiful dreams sometimes take time to come true. But when they do, they surpass all our expectations. You 3 are living proof that love always finds its way, even through unexpected paths." It was a quiet Sunday morning when Emily felt the first contractions. At 34 weeks of pregnancy, considered a significant milestone for triplets, she immediately recognized that these sensations were different from the Braxton Hicks contractions she had been experiencing. "Nathan," she called calmly, watching her husband prepare breakfast, "I think our little stars have decided it's time." The cup Nathan was holding almost fell. "Are you sure? There are still 2 weeks until the scheduled C-section date." "The girls seem to have their own plans," Emily replied, breathing deeply through another contraction. The trip to the hospital was surprisingly organized, thanks to the meticulous planning they had done. The 3 bags, 1 for each baby, had been ready for weeks, labeled with the colors chosen for each of the girls. At the hospital reception, the mere mention of triplets immediately mobilized the team. Dr. Victoria, who had already been alerted, arrived within minutes. "Let's see how our little stars are doing," she said, starting the examination. "Ah, yes. They've definitely decided that today is the big day." The surgical center was prepared while Emily was being monitored. Nathan, already dressed in hospital attire, held her hand, alternating between expressions of anxiety and emotional smiles. "I'm a little scared," Emily admitted in a moment of vulnerability. "Me too," Nathan confessed, kissing her forehead. "But you're the strongest person I know, and our girls are warriors just like their mum." Sophia arrived at the hospital just in time to see Emily before the surgery. "I'll coordinate the cheer squad in the waiting room," she joked, trying to ease the tension. In the operating room, 3 neonatal teams were waiting, 1 for each baby. Dr. Victoria led the procedure with the calm and professionalism that defined her. "Ready to meet your little stars?" she asked, beginning the C-section. The next few minutes were a whirlwind of emotions. At 11:47 a.m., Stella was the first to arrive, her strong cry echoing through the room. A minute later, at 11:48, Luna joined her sister. And finally, at 11:49, Aurora completed the trio, her cry blending with her sister's in a perfect symphony. 3 beautiful, healthy girls, Dr. Victoria announced, her voice choked with emotion. Nathan, who watched everything with tears streaming down his face, cut the 3 umbilical cords. Each baby was quickly examined, and to everyone's relief, despite being premature, they were in excellent condition. "Stella weighs 2.1 kilo, a nurse announced. "Luna exactly 2 kilos, said another. "And Aurora 2.2 kilo, the third completed. Emily, still on the operating table, cried with happiness as she heard the details about her daughters. "Are they okay?" she asked anxiously. "Perfectly okay," Dr. Victoria assured. "They're little warriors." One by one, the babies were placed next to Emily's face for their first contact. Stella, the most serious, just watched her with attentive eyes. Luna immediately calmed down upon hearing her mother's voice. Aurora, the most restless, tried to lift her little head. "Already showing their personalities," Nathan commented, amazed. The next few hours were a mix of exams, care, and intense emotions. The triplets, though premature, showed surprising strength. They would need a few days in the neonatal ICU, but the doctors were optimistic. In the room after the initial recovery, Emily was finally able to hold her daughters properly. With Nathan's and the nurse's help, they organized a rotation so each baby could have their special moment with their parents. "It's amazing how alike they are, yet so different," Emily observed, noticing the small unique traits of each one. Stella had a tiny birthmark behind her ear, Luna had a unique swirl in her hair, and Aurora had a dimple that appeared even when she was serious. Visits began the next day. Sophia, first in line, couldn't hold back her tears as she saw her goddaughters. "They're perfect," she said, watching the 3 little ones in their ICU cribs, each one with their own sparkle. Olivia also appeared, bringing 3 small teddy bears, one for each baby. "Now you're officially a mum of triplets," she joked, hugging Emily. The days in the hospital were intense, with Emily and Nathan learning the specific routine needed to care for 3 newborns. The nurses were patient, teaching techniques for multiple feedings and organizing care. "The secret is to maintain a strict routine," explained the head nurse. "When one wakes up to feed, we wake them all. That way you can get some rest between feedings." In her diary, now transformed into a memory book for the girls, Emily wrote, "My beloved daughters, today you finally arrived in the world, bringing with you all the light I've always dreamed of. Stella, with your observant eyes and serenity. Luna, with your sweetness and calm. Aurora, with your energy and determination. 3 different facets of the same love. 3 different expressions of the same miracle." Night fell over the hospital, and Emily watched her 3 little stars sleeping peacefully in their NICU cribs. Nathan, sitting beside her, held her hand. "Can you believe they're ours?" he whispered. "Every second of waiting was worth it," Emily replied, her heart overflowing with love. "Every tear, every disappointment brought us here. To them." And so, under the soft light of the NICU, 3 little stars began their journey on Earth, carrying with them the promise of a love multiplied by 3. Adapting to life with triplets required a complete reorganization of their routine. After 2 weeks in the NICU, the girls were finally discharged to go home. The apartment, which had seemed spacious before, was now filled with life and constant movement. "How can they be so small and take up so much space at the same time?" Nathan joked as he organized diapers, bottles, and other essentials in triplicate. Emily, who was nursing Luna while Stella and Aurora slept in their cribs, smiled tiredly but happily. "It's the mystery of love multiplied by 3. The routine gradually settled. The girls fed every 3 hours, and Emily and Nathan developed a shift system to ensure they both got some rest. Sophia offered to help a few nights a week, becoming a constant and essential presence. "Each one has her own rhythm," Emily observed, during a nighttime feeding. "Stella always wakes up first as if she's on guard. Luna is the most patient, waiting her turn quietly. And Aurora, well, Aurora makes sure she's heard." The girls' personalities became more distinct each day. Stella, the most observant, spent long moments just looking around, her little eyes attentive to every movement. Luna had an easy smile and loved skin-to-skin contact with her parents. Aurora was restless and determined, always the first to complain when something bothered her. One morning, while changing the triplets' diapers in sequence, Emily had an exciting surprise. "Nathan," she called excitedly, "Stella is smiling, a real smile." Nathan rushed over to see, arriving just in time to witness his eldest daughter's first social smile. It didn't take long for Luna and Aurora to follow their sister, as if they had coordinated this developmental milestone. The girls' room became the heart of the home. The mobiles spun gently above the cribs, each telling its own silent story. At night, a soft light projected stars onto the ceiling, creating a magical environment for the little ones to sleep. "Sometimes, I come here just to watch them sleep," Nathan confessed one night. "I still can't believe they're ours." Emily understood the feeling perfectly. Every moment with the girls was precious, even the most challenging ones. The sleepless nights, the simultaneous feedings, the endless diaper changes, it was all part of a dream come true multiplied by 3. The support group from the Institute organized a special visit when the girls turned 1 month old. Olivia, now with her own 6-month-old daughter, led the group. "You are our inspiration," she said, watching Emily nurse all 3 with a skill that only daily practice could bring. Seeing your triplets so healthy and happy gives us hope. Emily, though exhausted, felt fulfilled. Every story has its time, she replied, adjusting Aurora in her arms. And sometimes when we least expect it, life surprises us with more than we ever dreamed of. The follow-up appointments with Dr. Victoria were moments of celebration. The girls were growing as expected, each developing at their own pace. They are an extraordinary success story, the doctor commented during one visit. 3 healthy babies from a single embryo transfer. You really hit the genetic lottery. At home, Emily kept a separate journal for each of the girls, recording their unique traits and development. Dear Stella, you are our silent observer, always attentive to everything around you. Your deep gaze seems to hold secrets of the universe. Beloved Luna, your serenity is a gift. You bring peace even in the most chaotic moments, as if you understand that life has its own rhythm. Sweet Aurora, your energy lights up our days. You're not afraid to show what you want, to fight for your space. Nathan, who had adjusted his work to be more present, developed special rituals with each of them. For Stella, he sang songs about stars. For Luna, he told stories about the moon. For Aurora, he made up tales about the sunrise. They already recognized the songs, he noticed with delight, when Stella instantly calmed down upon hearing her favorite tune. The nights, though tiring, became special moments of connection. After the girls fell asleep, Emily and Nathan had their intimate time, sharing the joys and challenges of the day. Would you do it all over again? Emily commented one night, nestled in Nathan's arms. Every hard moment, every uncertainty, it was all worth it to have our 3 little stars. Nathan kissed her forehead gently. You're amazing, you know. Watching you with our daughters, it's like witnessing a daily miracle. And so, between nighttime feedings, diaper changes, and sleepy smiles, the family found their rhythm. 3 little stars shone brighter and brighter, illuminating the lives of everyone around them with their unique and special glow. The following months brought a succession of firsts that seemed multiplied by 3. At 4 months, the girls began to develop their own ways of communicating, not just with their parents, but also with each other. Look at this, Emily called Nathan one afternoon, watching the 3 on the activity mat. Stella had dropped her rattle, and Luna, noticing her sister's distress, pushed her own toy toward her. Aurora, not wanting to be left out, began making excited sounds as if celebrating her sister's interaction. It's amazing how they already have this connection, Nathan remarked, marveling. It's like they have their own language. The routine, though still challenging, had found a more predictable rhythm. Emily had returned to work part-time at the institute, bringing the girls with her a few times a week. A special room had been adapted as a nursery, allowing her to keep her daughters close while coordinating projects. It's inspiring to see how you manage to balance everything, commented a new member of the support group, watching Emily nurse Aurora while leading a meeting, with Stella and Luna playing quietly in their playpen nearby. The key is accepting that not everything will always be perfect, Emily replied with a smile, adjusting Aurora in her arms. And having an incredible support network helps a lot. At home, every moment brought new discoveries. The girls began to turn over on their own, each in their own time. Stella was the first, surprising everyone one morning when she was found lying on her stomach in her crib, intently watching the mobile above her. Luna took a bit longer, preferring to perfect the movement before fully executing it. Aurora, on the other hand, seemed determined not just to turn over but also to try crawling immediately. 3 such distinct personalities, Sophia observed during one of her regular visits. It's as if each one represents a different facet of life. Weekends became special moments of family connection. Nathan insisted on maintaining traditions even with their busy routine. On Sundays, he would take the girls out to the balcony to soak up the sun, each wearing their personalized hats, stars for Stella, moons for Luna, and suns for Aurora. Daddy and his 3 princesses, Emily joked, capturing the precious moments in photos. The girls' development continued to amaze everyone. At 6 months, during a routine checkup, the pediatrician noted how each had her own growth pattern, remaining healthy and active. Stella is more interested in observing and learning, the doctor commented. Luna is our social butterfly, always smiling at everyone. And Aurora, well, Aurora seems determined to conquer the world as soon as possible. At home, the girls' room had transformed into a magical space of discovery. The walls, once decorated only with mobiles, now displayed photos documenting every special moment. Emily had created a mural with 3 trees, one for each girl, where she hung small cards with their milestones. One night, while putting the girls to sleep, Emily had a moment of deep realization. Stella had already fallen asleep, her serene face illuminated by the soft light of the lamp. Luna was fighting sleep, her heavy eyelids blinking as she held onto her mother's finger. Aurora, as always, protested against bedtime, wanting a few more moments of play. "You know what?" she whispered to her daughters. "The 3 of you are exactly what I always dreamed of, even when I didn't know I was dreaming of triplets." Nathan, who was watching from the doorway, quietly approached. "They are our own little constellation," he remarked, hugging Emily from behind. In her journal, now with 3 distinct volumes, one for each girl, Emily continued to record every precious moment. "Dear Stella, today you discovered your reflection in the mirror. You were fascinated, as if you had found a new world to explore. Your curiosity is endless. Beloved Luna, your first mama today made me cry with joy. It was a soft whisper, like everything about you, but it filled my heart with love. Sweet Aurora, you don't stay still for a second. Today you almost managed to crawl. Your determination is impressive. You teach us every day about persistence." The nights, though still interrupted by feedings and occasional cries, had become moments of reflection and gratitude. Emily and Nathan often found themselves watching the nursery monitor, marveling at their 3 little miracles. "Sometimes I wonder," Nathan said one night, "if the universe knew from the beginning that we needed all 3. If all that waiting time was just to prepare us for this tripled love." Emily smiled, thinking about how her life had transformed. "You know what's most amazing? How every challenge, every difficult moment, brought us exactly where we were meant to be." And so, between smiles, discoveries, and small daily miracles, Stella, Luna, and Aurora continued to grow, each at her own pace, but always connected by a love that multiplied every day. The triplets' first birthday was approaching, and with it came a series of important milestones in the girls' development. Luna was the first to take her hesitant steps, surprising everyone during a quiet afternoon at home. "Nathan, quick!" Emily called, barely containing her excitement as she filmed Luna clumsily walking toward one of her favorite toys. Stella watched, attentively from her spot on the rug, as if studying her sister's technique, while Aurora clapped enthusiastically. It didn't take long for the 3 of them to start exploring the apartment at their own paces and styles. Stella, cautious and methodical, planned every move. Luna, balanced and graceful from the start, moved with surprising confidence. Aurora, as impulsive as ever, alternated between wobbly runs and falls that barely seemed to faze her. "It's as if each of them represents a different way of facing life," Sophia commented, watching her nieces during the preparations for the birthday party. The celebration of their first year was planned with great care. The theme, naturally, was celestial, with stars, moons, and suns decorating the building's party hall. 3 identical cakes, each with its own personalized decoration, took center stage on the main table. "I can't believe it's already been a year," Emily said emotionally, adjusting the girls' dresses, 3 little masterpieces in shades of gold, silver, and dawn pink. The party was an absolute success. The triplets, already well known at the Institute and among friends and family, were the center of attention. Each reacted in her own way to the commotion. Stella observed everything with her attentive eyes, occasionally hiding her face in Emily's neck when the attention became too much. Luna smiled at everyone, charming the guests with her sweetness. Aurora, as always, made sure to be heard, her contagious laughter echoing through the hall. During the celebration, Olivia, who now coordinated one of the Institute's programs, gave a brief speech that moved everyone. "A little over a year ago, I was at one of the support group meetings, lost and hopeless. Emily not only showed me that it was possible to achieve the dream of motherhood, but also how to turn our pain into strength. Today, her three little stars are a symbol of hope for all of us. That night, after all the guests had left and the girls were finally asleep, Emily and Nathan sat on the balcony sharing a quiet moment. "Can you believe everything that's happened in just 1 year?" she asked, leaning against his chest. "Every moment has been a miracle," Nathan replied, kissing her forehead. "And to think this is just the beginning." The days that followed brought new discoveries. The girls began to develop their own language, a mix of recognizable words and sounds that only they seemed to understand. Mommy and Daddy were already part of all three's vocabulary, each with her own characteristic intonation. Stella tended to be more economical with words, preferring to point and observe. Luna could already form small sentences, her soft voice enchanting everyone. Aurora talked constantly, mixing real words with her own invented language. One morning, while preparing breakfast, now a complex operation involving 3 high chairs and multiple colorful spoons, Emily noticed something special. "Look at this," she called Nathan, pointing to the girls. Stella had dropped her spoon, and before anyone could help, Luna and Aurora had already pushed their own spoons toward their sister. "The bond between them is incredible," Nathan commented. Moved. "It's like they know exactly what each one needs." At the Institute, the triplets had become a regular and beloved presence. Their room had been permanently adapted as a children's space, allowing other mothers to bring their babies during meetings. "You've created more than a support center," one of the participants commented. "You've created an extended family." In her journal, now with 3 substantial volumes, Emily continued to record every precious moment. "Dear Stella, today you built your first block tower. Your concentration was absolute, and the smile of satisfaction when you succeeded was illuminating. Beloved Luna, your gentle heart continues to surprise us. Today you shared your favorite cookie with your sisters without anyone asking. Sweet Aurora, your energy seems endless. Today you decided you wanted to dance, and you didn't stop until everyone was dancing with you." The nights, though quieter now that the girls slept for longer periods, still had their special moments. Nathan kept the ritual of telling different stories to each one, stories that were now eagerly anticipated and requested. "More star, Daddy," Stella would ask. "Luna wants moon," the middle one insisted. "Sun, sun," Aurora completed the chorus. And so, between hesitant steps and newly discovered words, smiles and a few tears, the 3 little stars continued their journey, lighting up each day with their unique and special glow. Emily and Nathan watched in awe, knowing that every moment, every discovery, every little miracle was part of a love story that continued to multiply. Time seemed to fly, and soon the triplets turned 2. With increasingly defined personalities, they turned each day into a new adventure. The house was always in motion, filled with laughter, little arguments, and moments of tenderness that melted everyone's hearts. Stella had become a little thinker. She was often found in a quiet corner, flipping through books or observing the world through the window with a contemplative expression that reminded Nathan so much of Emily. "What is it, my star?" Nathan asked one afternoon, finding her lost in thought. "Daddy, why sky blue?" she replied with her characteristic curiosity. Luna remained the peacemaker of the trio. When her sisters argued over toys or attention, she always found a way to resolve the conflict, offering alternatives or simply handing out hugs. "Luna is our little diplomat," Emily commented to Sophia during one of the godmother's regular visits. Aurora, true to her nature, was pure energy and determination, always the first to try new things, whether climbing on furniture, to her parents' dismay, or inventing new games. "Aurora, get down from there," became a common phrase in the family's vocabulary. The Institute continued to grow, now with a special program for families with multiples. Emily coordinated the activities remotely most of the time, but made sure to maintain regular in-person meetings. "Seeing your triplets grow gives us so much hope," one mother commented during a meeting, watching the girls play in the children's area. "They are living proof that miracles happen." At home, each day brought new discoveries and challenges. The girls had developed a special interest in music, each with their distinct preferences. Stella loved calm and melodic songs, often asking to listen to star music before bed. Luna had a fondness for nursery rhymes, always pulling her sisters into a circle to dance. Aurora preferred more upbeat rhythms, turning any moment into a private party. "It's amazing how three people who came from the same place can be so different," Nathan remarked one night after putting the girls to bed. Emily smiled, thinking about how each of her daughters was unique and special in her own way. It's as if each one was born with her own mission in the world. The development of language brought hilarious and heartwarming moments. The girls had created their own dialect, a mix of real and invented words that only they seemed to fully understand. "Stella, let's play star," Luna called. "No, Luna, let's jump," Aurora countered. "Quiet, reading book," Stella replied, absorbed in her discoveries. In her diary, now a precious collection of memories, Emily continued to record the special moments. "Dear Stella, today you surprised me with a question about why the moon changes shape. Your little eyes sparkled with genuine curiosity, and we spent the whole afternoon exploring books about the solar system. Beloved Luna, your heart continues to be our guide. Today, when Aurora fell and hurt her knee, you were the first to run and comfort her, offering your favorite teddy bear without hesitation. Sweet Aurora, your courage inspires us daily. Today you finally managed to climb the slide by yourself, and your victory cry echoed throughout the entire playground." The nights, though more structured now, still held their magical moments. Nathan kept the storytelling ritual, but now the girls actively participated, adding their own elements to the narratives. "And then the star found the moon," he began. "And then came the sun," Aurora enthusiastically added. "All friends," Luna added with a smile. "Shining together," Stella wisely concluded. The apartment, which already seemed small with 3 babies, now overflowed with the energy of 3 active children. Every room told stories of adventures, discoveries, and little accidents, like the time Aurora decided the walls needed new art, or when Stella turned the coffee table into an improvised observatory. "I think it's time we look for a bigger space," Nathan suggested one evening, after yet another session of creative reorganization of the space. Emily agreed, watching her daughters sleeping peacefully in their rooms. They need more space to grow and explore. And so, between plans for the future and celebrations of the present, the family continued their journey. 3 little stars, each shining with their unique light, together forming a perfect constellation of love, discoveries, and joys multiplied by 3. "You know what's most amazing?" Emily commented to Nathan as they watched the sunset on the balcony, listening to the girls' laughter as they played in the room. "How every challenge we've faced has brought us exactly where we were meant to be. With our 3 little stars lighting the way," he added, embracing her. And in that moment, as in so many others, they knew their love story had transformed into something even more special. A story of 3 little miracles that continued to surprise and enchant them with each new day. The search for a new home became a family adventure. Every weekend, Emily and Nathan took the girls to visit potential new homes, turning each visit into a small expedition. "This one has trees!" Aurora exclaimed excitedly during a visit to a house with a backyard. "Can we see stars?" Stella asked, already thinking about her favorite pastime. "There's space for everyone to play together," Luna observed wisely. Finally, they found the perfect place, a house in a gated community with a spacious garden and an area that could be transformed into an observatory, a dream Stella had mentioned several times. The move was a process that involved the whole family. The girls, now 2.5 years old, insisted on helping in their own way. Stella meticulously organized her books into small piles. Luna made sure all her sisters' favorite toys were properly packed. Aurora turned every empty box into a new adventure. "Mommy, look! Rocket!" she shouted from inside a large box, making liftoff sounds. The new home brought new routines and discoveries. The garden quickly became the girls' favorite place. Nathan, with the help of a landscaper, created 3 special flower beds, one for each of the girls to grow their own flowers. Stella chose daisies because they look like stars, Emily noted in her journal. Luna went for night-blooming jasmine, fascinated by the idea of flowers that glow under the moon. Aurora naturally chose sunflowers, tall and always facing the sun. At the Institute, the program for families with multiples had expanded significantly. Emily now coordinated a dedicated team, and success stories multiplied. "It's amazing how your triplets have inspired so many other families," Olivia commented, who was now expecting twins. "They're living proof that dreams can come true in unexpected ways." The girls' personalities continued to develop in fascinating ways. Stella had discovered a passion for astronomy, spending hours with her first child-sized telescope, a special gift from Nathan. "Daddy, Jupiter tonight," she announced excitedly on clear nights. Luna developed a natural talent for music, always humming and creating her own melodies. Her lullabies became famous in the family, soothing even Aurora in her most restless moments. Aurora, in turn, revealed herself to be a little athlete. Always the first to try new physical challenges, she turned the garden into her personal gym. "Be careful, my love," became Emily's mantra as she watched her youngest climb yet another tree. On a special evening, while the girls slept, Emily and Nathan sat in the garden gazing at the stars, a new ritual they had established in their new home. "Sometimes I wonder," Emily said softly, "if they realize how much they've changed our lives, how much they've taught us about love, patience, and wonder." Nathan smiled, squeezing her hand. "They are our greatest teachers, each in their own unique way." Emily's journal continued to grow, now with increasingly elaborate entries. "Dear Stella, today you explained to me, with all the seriousness of your 2.5 years, why the stars seem to twinkle. Your love for knowledge moves me. Beloved Luna, your new lullaby soothes not only your sisters but all of us. You have a special gift for bringing peace. Sweet Aurora, your determination continues to surprise us. Today you insisted on learning how to do somersaults, and you didn't give up until you got it." Mornings in the new house had a rhythm of their own. Breakfast was served on the porch, with each girl having her own special chair, decorated with their respective celestial symbols. "Tell us the story of the sun, Daddy," Aurora would invariably ask. "After the moon," Luna would add. "And the stars too," Stella would chime in. The makeshift observatory in the attic became the favorite spot for nighttime stories. Nathan had installed a projector that turned the ceiling into a starry sky, and there, lying on soft cushions, the girls listened to tales of constellations, planets, and distant galaxies. "It's like we have our own little piece of the universe," Emily remarked one night, watching her daughters fall asleep under the projected stars. And so, in their new home, with more space to grow and dream, the family continued their journey. 3 little stars, each shining with their own unique light, together forming a perfect constellation of love and discovery. "You know what's most beautiful?" Nathan asked one night as they closed up the observatory. "How each of them has found their own way to shine." Emily smiled, thinking about how her 3 little stars had transformed her life in ways she could never have imagined. And how, together, they form the most beautiful constellation. And, under the starry sky of their new home, surrounded by love multiplied by 3, they knew this was just another page in their story. A story of dreams fulfilled, unconditional love, and 3 little miracles that continued to light up their days with their own unique glow.